Well, good afternoon. 6.5 years ago, Plan YC, the city's sustainability agenda that we launched, set out the goal of making New York a greater, greener city. And today we're releasing a study showing our impressive strides towards one of its top objectives. And you can say, how do we use the word impressive? When you see this presentation, you will realize just how lucky we are to have started this process and to have the cooperation of everybody in this city. New York has the cleanest air now of any major American city. And today our air is the cleanest it's been in almost 50 years. And that cleaner air is saving nearly 800 lives a year in our city. Now, our New York Community Air Survey, based on results from 100 monitoring sites around the city, shows that between 2008 and 2012, we reduced the amount of sulfur dioxide, a major lung irritant linked to serious respiratory diseases, in our air by 69%. There is also 23% less particulate matter, the toxic soot in our air that is so harmful and in many cases deadly, than there was 5 years ago. And 3 years ago, New York ranked 7th among major American cities in the level of particulate matter in our air, and today we've moved up to 4th place. So just think about that. In just 3 years, we've leapfrogged 3 cities in air quality, and we're continuing to outpace most other American U.S. cities in improving air quality and showing the way for cities around the world facing often horrendous air pollution problems, as you've seen on television, particularly on the Weather Channel. Shameless plug. The greatest progress in improving air quality has occurred in what have long been some of the most polluted parts of our city, in the Bronx and in Manhattan. And the animated maps we're about to display show just how dramatic that progress has been. Cue animation. There we go. Now, this is... Kaz, you want to talk about this?
Sure.
Go back to the other one. There we go.
This is the map as it appeared in 2000.
Talk into the microphone.
This is the map of sulfur concentration, parts per billion, as it appeared in 2008, 2009, based on the first community air survey, which was conceived and then funded through Plan YC. And you can see that it shows that dirty air does not discriminate. You have high concentrations. Now, we just did the second round of this survey, and based on the initiatives that the mayor's about to talk about, this is what the map looks like now. And
Jamie, go back and forth. The old one and the new one.
And so the results, Mayor, you will explain.
We've largely accomplished this because of a set of actions we've taken in the past few years, and that included ordering the phase-out of the most heavily polluting heating fuels in our city, which are known as number 6 and number 4 oil, which many buildings in these areas have traditionally used. We've also, it's because of working with the City Council and state officials to reduce sulfur content in number 4 and number 2 heating oil, and to introduce 2% renewable biodiesel in all heating oils, and also providing building owners with the help they need to convert to cleaner burning heating fuels. Now, in the coming years, the continued health benefits of this conversion to cleaner heating fuels will make it the single biggest step we have taken to save lives since we began our comprehensive smoking control program, including passing the Smoke-Free Air Act. Because just consider this. The approximately 10,000 buildings that were using the most polluting grades of fuel oil when we issued our new regulations in 2011 make up less than 1% of all the buildings in the city. Yet they were putting out more soot in our air than all the cars and trucks on city streets and highways combined. To address that problem, if you remember, we didn't just issue regulations telling building owners, thou shalt not. We also said, we can help you do the right thing. And so we coupled our regulations with assistance and incentives, and we recruited real estate industry leaders, including a major figure, Douglas Durst, the chairman of the Durst Organization, as well as Con Ed, National Grid, the New York Heating Oil Association, and also the Environmental Defense Fund to help launch an initiative. That initiative is called Clean Heat and is directed by the city's Office of Long-Term Planning and Sustainability. It provides technical assistance and, where needed, cost-effective financing through the New York City Energy Efficiency Corporation to help in conversions from number 6 oil, the most polluting grades of heating oil, to cleaner alternatives. And the result is that today, more than 2,700 buildings of the roughly 10,000, that's a little greater than a quarter, that we're using heavily polluting oil fuels have made the switch, and the vast majority of these cases, they're now using far cleaner burning natural gas, ultra-low sulfur fuel oil, and biodiesel fuel. And they've done that even though they and other buildings aren't legally required to make such conversions until the year 2030. So they've gone ahead and they've made an enormous difference, and that shows up in the life expectancy of people living in the city. And the professionals estimate that because of the cleaner air, 800 fewer people will die every single year in New York. Now, here's what the improved air quality that we've achieved means in human terms. Improvements that the Clean Heat program has contributed significantly to. There has been an approximately 25% drop in pollution-related deaths, emergency room visits, and hospital admissions in our city in the past 5 years. Our success in cleaning the air, as I just said, saves the lives of close to 800 New Yorkers every year. It means that every year we have some 2,000 fewer emergency room visits and hospital admissions resulting from lung diseases like asthma and from cardiovascular diseases. And that's reducing suffering for the very young, the very old, or the already ill, especially in low-income communities. Now, city government's number one responsibility, I've always thought, is protecting the health and safety of our people. And when you look at the results like that, at the lives being saved and the illnesses being prevented, it tells you that we're definitely doing something right. In addition to saving lives, the clean heat steps that were taken have reduced greenhouse gas emissions by something like 470,000 metric tons every year, or nearly 1% of our total emissions. And every ton we eliminate is one less ton of heat-trapping gases in our atmosphere. Now, right after this announcement, I'll join Weather Company CEO David Kenny for a Climate Week conversation that will further detail the progress that we're making. But suffice it to say that because of the administration, the city council, the taxpayers, the voters, the building owners, all the people in this city have gotten together, and whether they really thought about it or not, collectively, they have made a real difference in the stuff we're putting into the air and really made a big difference in saving lives. Before introducing our other speakers, let me just add that earlier this week, the city's Department of Environmental Protection sent a proposed update of the city's air code to the City Council. If enacted, it will be the first major revision of the code in 38 years. It will simplify compliance requirements and streamline the permitting process, and we expect that its enactment will take us even further towards helping all New Yorkers to breathe easy. So on that note, let me ask our City Health Commissioner, Dr. Tom Farley, to elaborate on this big improvement in our public health. Tom?
Thank you. It's worth pointing out to start that we all breathe in, on average, about 15 times a minute. We do that every minute of every hour of every day across a lifespan. And that means that the quality of the air that we breathe over the course of a lifespan can have a big impact on our health. If the air has chemicals or if it has fine particles that can get into the lung, that can irritate the lungs and it can exacerbate health problems like asthma and emphysema. And the chemicals can also get into the bloodstream and lead to other health problems or exacerbate other health problems like heart disease. Now, no one has the ability to choose what air to breathe and what air not to breathe. And that means it's government's responsibility to keep the air as clean as possible. Now, it's unavoidable to have some amount of air pollution, because almost everything we do, from heating buildings to driving in cars, generates some amount of pollutants. But we can minimize the amount of pollutants that we put out. And if we do, because we all breathe that air all the time, we can make big strides in health by doing so. Now, the health department's role in the announcement that we're talking about today mainly was in putting together a first-of-a-kind air quality monitoring system that no other city that we know of has. We call this the New York City Community Air Survey. This gives us detailed information at the neighborhood level that we might measure on a continuous basis and enables us to produce maps like those. This survey also helped us identify and quantify the sources of pollution that were most contributing to our citywide air pollution. Now, and that then feeds into our policy changes and the programs that you're going to hear more about in a minute. We expected when we did the improvements in reductions of combustion of home heating oils that we would have improvements in air quality at the city level. But the results are even better than we expected. I would say the results are stunning. And the mayor said them, but they're worth reiterating. So our wintertime levels of sulfur dioxide in the air, sulfur dioxide can exacerbate asthma, have been reduced by 69%. Our citywide levels of fine particles, what we call PM 2.5, or what you might call soot, which exacerbate heart disease and lung disease, have been reduced by 23%. Now, we know that those PM 2.5 particles increase your risk of dying of a variety of illnesses, in particular cardiovascular disease. So based upon that, we can estimate how many deaths we are preventing by that 23% reduction in PM 2.5, and it's 800 deaths per year. So aside from lowering the smoking rates that the city has done since 2002, this better air quality is preventing more deaths than any other change that's happened in New York City over the last decade. What gets even better is that these health improvements are just beginning now, because we've only got about a third of the buildings that have converted to cleaner fuels now. More of them will convert in future years, so our health benefits are only going to grow. Now, much more needs to be done. Air pollution continues to be a major health problem, but now we know more how to do it. We measure carefully where the pollution sources are coming from. We do what we can to reduce emissions from those sources, and we have improvements citywide. So today, though, we can celebrate the fact that our air is cleaner than ever, and New York City residents are living longer than ever, and it's not a coincidence.
Tom, thank you. And I should point out that Douglas Durst, the CEO of Durst Organization, has just arrived, and I talked about you before in glowing terms, you should know. The Environmental Defense Fund has played a big part in the success of our Clean Heat initiative, and I would like to thank their New York Regional Director, Andy Darrell. Andy, you want to say a few words?
Thank you. Thanks. This is a huge win for anybody who breathes the air in New York City. A 69% reduction in sulfur dioxide pollution over a 4-year period. I don't think there's any program anywhere in the world that can beat that level of success in that time frame. I just want to point out one of the things that I think was key to that success, and that is the partnership that is exemplified by the Clean Heat program, but by Plan YC generally, between the public sector and the private sector and communities to make this happen. This is not a result that happened only because of advocacy, only because of policy, only because of finance and private capital. It happened because all these things were deployed together with the real estate community, finance, community organizations, government at all levels stepping up to the table and staying focused on a goal that we knew was an important goal because the data was there to tell us this is where we need to focus. It's that partnership that made it possible to have the clean air that we're breathing here right now. And I want to thank the mayor and his team for sticking with that partnership and making it possible, making the space within government for that partnership to be born and to work together and achieve the kind of results that we see on the map here today. So thank you.
Andy, thank you. Finally, I'd like to ask the Executive Director of the New York Environmental Justice Alliance, who's also an alumnus, I'm happy to say, of our administration, Eddie Battista, to comment on today's announcement. Eddie?
Thanks, Mayor. when the mayor said that his administration was going to work until the very last day, he just wasn't whistling Dixie. What do we got, like 96 days left? Is that right? And I would argue that this is among the most important announcements that have been made. 20 years ago, in the South Bronx, Hunts Point had a childhood hospitalization asthma rate 12 times the national average. 15 years ago, I remember our organization started pushing for a community air monitoring program because, as the mayor often says, you can't measure it, you can't really fix it. And as you could see from the images shown before, this is exactly what we had hoped, that if you measure the particulate emissions, if you measure the air pollution load pockets in our communities, that action like the Clean Heat program could be taken to relieve this disproportionate burden. And we're talking about, for example, East Harlem and the South Bronx. They're among the top 15 communities that are benefiting from this. I will say that not only is the mayor's administration and their partners in environmental defense to be commended, but I want to remind everyone that there's nothing more fundamental than the right to breathe. So again, Mayor, congratulations. Thank you.
Eddie, thank you. I should point out that standing behind me, you've heard from Kaz Holloway, but also our Environmental Protection Commissioner, Carter Strickland Jr., and Sergei Marnovsky, Director of the City's Office of Long-Term Planning and Sustainability, and the others you've heard from. Let me just summarize for the Spanish-speaking audience before we take questions. Estamos mejorando la calidad de aire que respiramos en nuestra ciudad. Esto nos ha ayudado a salvar a casi 800 vidas cada año. And with that, we'll be happy to take some questions on